In Blog 7, I talked about the fact that the Palestinian Charter calls for the destruction of Israel. I explained how a vote was taken in December of 1998 of what Bill Clinton thought was the Palestinian National Council. As it turned out, Yasser Arafat couldn't get the council to support the removal of the articles in the Constitution that call for Israel's destruction. So he packed a room full of people who were not members of the council, and then they voted to remove the articles. Of course, the articles remain in effect to this day. The Palestinian Charter still calls for the destruction of Israel. Now, today, I want to tell you a little bit about Hamas, because in January of 2006, Hamas won. I don't know if they have a majority of the seats in the Palestinian National Council or if they are the leading party, but they have tremendous power. In fact, they are the ruling power in the parliament there. And Mahmoud Abbas and the Fatah organization that is under his control are at war basically right now with Hamas. But there's some things you need to know about Hamas so that you can understand what Israel's contending with. First of all, Hamas came into being in December 1987. It was founded by Sheikh Ahmad Yassin. He was very upset with Israel, and he did this at the time of the First Intifada. The Hamas is a direct extension of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood was founded in Egypt, but it grew to maturity in Saudi Arabia. The sect of Judaism, forgive me for saying that, the sect of Islam that is most known for radical Islam is Wahhabism. That is a direct extension of the Muslim Brotherhood as well. The point I'm making is this, that Hamas comes from the most radical of the radical lines of Islam, and its roots go back to the Muslim Brotherhood and Wahhabism, and that's important. Now, in August of 1988, Hamas published its covenant. Let's call it their charter. And I'm going to read to you some excerpts from it's called the Covenant of the Islamic Resistance Movement. And that's the official name of Hamas, the Islamic Resistance Movement. And this covenant was signed on August the 18th, 1988. And I'm just going to read you some excerpts so you can understand what Israel must contend with every day. And I'll conclude by making some comments in general about the Palestinian people. Okay, this is from the introduction. Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. Is that pretty clear? I don't think any explanation is needed there. Okay, this is from Article 1. The Islamic Resistance Movement. The movement's program is Islam. From it, it draws its ideas, ways of thinking, and understanding of the universe, life, and man. It resorts to it for judgment in all its conduct, and it is inspired by it for guidance in its steps. No question there. We know that they're leaning on Islam. They make no bones about it. This is Article 2. The Islamic Resistance Movement is one of the wings of Muslim Brotherhood in Palestine. Muslim Brotherhood Movement is a universal organization which constitutes the largest Islamic movement in modern times. It is characterized by its deep understanding, accurate comprehension, and its complete embrace of all Islamic concepts, of all aspects of life, culture, creed, politics, economics, education, society, justice, and judgment, the spreading of Islam, education, art, information, science of the occult, and conversion to Islam. Again, no explanation needed there. This is from Article 3. The basic structure of the Islamic resistance movement consists of Muslims who have given their allegiance to Allah, whom they truly worship. This is Article 4. The Islamic resistance movement welcomes every Muslim who embraces its faith, ideology, follows its program, keeps its secrets, and wants to belong to its ranks and carry out the duty. That should be sufficient for Article 4. Article 6. The Islamic resistance movement is a distinguished Palestinian movement whose allegiance is to Allah and whose way of life is Islam. It strives to raise the banner of Allah over every inch of Palestine. And when they say every inch of Palestine, they're really saying all that portion that is now called Israel. Now I'm going back to the article. For under the wing of Islam, followers of all religions can coexist in security and safety where their lives, possessions, and rights are concerned. In the absence of Islam, strife will be rife. Oppression spreads, evil prevails, and schisms and wars will break out. You know, if you look at the world today, there is no more warlike people on the face of the planet than the Arab Muslims. The only thing that they can agree on, it seems, is that they hate Israel and they hate Western civilization. And when they're not fighting against Israel and Western civilization, they fight each other. They're constantly doing battle. It's a warlike society, is what it is. Okay, this is from Article 7. The Islamic resistance movement is one of the links in the chain of the struggle against the Zionist invaders. It goes back to 1939, to the emergence of the martyr Izz al-Din al-Qassam and his brethren, the fighters, members of Muslim Brotherhood. It goes on to reach out and become one with another chain that includes the struggle of the Palestinians and Muslim Brotherhood in the 1948 war, and for your information, that's the Israel's War of Independence, and getting back to the charter, and the jihad operations of the Muslim Brotherhood in 1968 and after. Again, it's obvious they really hate Israel. This is from Article 11. The Islamic resistance movement believes that the land of Palestine is an Islamic waqf, consecrated for future Muslim generations until Judgment Day. It, or any part of it, should not be squandered. It, or any part of it, should not be given up. Neither a single Arab country nor all Arab countries, neither any king or president, nor all the kings and presidents, neither any organization nor all of them, be they Palestinian or Arab, possess the right to do that. Palestine is an Islamic waqf and consecrated for Muslim generations until Judgment Day. This being so, who could claim to have the right to represent Muslim generations till Judgment Day? Well, of course they think that's Hamas. But here's the bottom line. What that says is that all the land that is Israel today is Muslim land, and it will be Muslim land until Judgment Day. That's what they're claiming there. This is Article 12. Nationalism, from the point of view of the Islamic resistance movement, is part of the religious creed. Nothing in nationalism is more significant or deeper than in the case with an enemy, when an enemy should tread Muslim land. And it goes on to explain how people are permitted to fight against the enemies of Islam in Muslim land. And again, that's a reference to Israel. Well, I could go farther. There's really no need. If you want to get a copy of the official name is let me go back to that page, the Covenant of the Islamic Resistance Movement. And that's dated August 18, 1988. You can get a copy of that off the Internet. Now, the reason I wanted you to hear those few excerpts is because in January of 2006, the Palestinian people had an opportunity to elect a government to represent them. And who did they elect? They elected Hamas. Now, you can say what you want about the Palestinian people loving peace, wanting peace, desperately striving for peace. The facts don't substantiate that. The facts tell us that when they have the opportunity to exercise the vote, they elect the most radical element in their society. Now, I understand why they did it. In terms of providing social services, Hamas has been doing that, and the Palestinian Authority has not been doing that. The Palestinian Authority is as corrupt as it can be. That I will acknowledge. And the world continues to pour dollars or resources in their direction. But the fact remains that they were given the opportunity to elect a government to represent them, and they chose the most anti-Semitic group in their midst. Okay. The Fatah and the Palestinian Authority under Fatah has not been a great example. Hamas recognized that, and they were doing the things that Fatah should have done, providing social services. They won the people's support. Folks, there doesn't seem to be a group in that community, an honest group in that community, who isn't hell-bent on destroying Israel. It just doesn't make any sense to think that these people are peace-loving. They're not. Now, these are the people that Israel is being asked to enter into a peace agreement with. And we have seen over the past 60 years that every agreement they have reached, they have violated. In fact, Yasser Arafat said it about as well as anyone could say it. He said, "We merely reach these agreements and take what we can get while we wait on the Islamic nation to rise up to destroy or to drive the Jews into the sea." There's no question in my mind what they're doing here. And we're moving toward a peace treaty. Here's what I want you to understand. This peace treaty will not bring about peace. There's not a single player on the Palestinian side who's interested in peace with Israel. The most peace-loving of them want to destroy them. That's just something you've got to understand. And if you don't believe that, then you really need to do some studying. If you do, you'll find out that's absolutely true.